What is your relationship with yourself? If it's not always a positive one, that is okay, because we're gonna do some Valentine's themed coloring and talk about self-love. I'm super excited to show you these two cozy coloring books. This one is called Valentine, the Cozy Coquette coloring book, and I love the coquette aesthetic. It's all about putting bows and hearts on things, so it's perfect for Valentine's Day. And this is an adorable coloring book called Razzle, Animals in Love that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about. It's all adorable love-themed scenes of love and friendship and siblings with these cute little animal characters.
Now let's talk about self-love, my sweet coloring pals. In this cozy coloring video, I want to chat about 3 things that can help you transform your relationship with yourself and help you be more self-loving. These 3 things are self-judgment, the people in your life, and your willingness to change. Let me share a quote by a poet I love, Young Pueblo. If you want a better life, focus on releasing the blocks that stop you from loving yourself unconditionally. There are so many barriers that make it hard to love ourselves. Barriers from childhood because we're taught math and history, but not enough about self-love. Barriers from friendships and relationships and not being treated with care. Barriers from society and the messages we get about identity and worth. I love this Young Pueblo quote because it reframes the path to self-love. It's not necessarily about learning to love yourself, although that is part of it, but it's also about releasing the blocks and barriers that make it hard to love yourself. The first way you can build a more loving relationship with yourself is all about a barrier we have to self-love, and that barrier is self-judgment. I asked a question at the beginning of this video, and I asked, what is your relationship with yourself? I want to revisit that because I want you to think of this question as a completely neutral question with no wrong answers. The reason it's important that it is a neutral question is because of this concept that has helped me, and I hope it helps you, be so much kinder and more loving to myself. And it all comes down to this idea called the second arrow. I'll explain what that means in just a moment, but first, I wanted to share that I learned about this concept from Tara Brach, who does these talks and meditations about mindfulness from a Buddhist and psychological perspective, and I highly, highly recommend her podcast if you've been wanting to try and practice meditating. So the concept of the second arrow is all about making things feel worse for ourselves. For example, if you feel like self-love is something you struggle with, then you start feeling bad about that. You're causing additional pain for yourself or shooting a second arrow at yourself by feeling bad or punishing yourself for the way that you feel. It's okay if you're working on your relationship with yourself and don't always feel good about yourself. And it's okay if you love and believe in yourself. But if you start feeling bad or guilty for how you feel about yourself, you're amplifying your hurt and struggle. So that's why it's important to just practice acceptance of things as they are. Whether you love yourself or it's hard for you to be kind and loving to yourself, just accept and acknowledge that for what it is. Don't shoot a second arrow, making it so much more painful. And try not to have a reaction or feel any way about how you feel. The way you feel is the way you feel, and that's okay. This self-acceptance helps so much in judging yourself less because you're not shooting yourself with a second arrow. You can see things as they are and truly work on them. If you judge yourself for struggling with self-love, it is going to be 10 times harder to become a better, kinder friend to yourself. But if you just recognize it's something that you struggle with without judging yourself or feeling bad about that, then you can begin to work on it. This is why the first big piece in being able to practice self-love is working on your self-judgment. And the second thing in helping you practice better self-love is your relationships or your friendships. Think about what a good friend means to you. In my opinion, a good friend or a good person to surround yourself with wants the very best for you. They want you to be the best version of yourself and root for you no matter what. Think of some of your friendships. How do you feel when you're around these people? Do you feel encouraged, uplifted, and supported? Or do you notice more self-doubt and anxiety? Now, don't necessarily go and change all of your friendships because of this reflection, but I want to share why it matters who you surround yourself with. Have you heard that saying, if you can't love yourself, how can you love anyone else? I disagree with that so much. Of course, I think when you love yourself more, you have more love to offer others too. But I really believe it sometimes takes love and encouragement from others to help you build self-love within yourself. Remember all those barriers I mentioned to self-love? We will never live in a perfect world where we stop experiencing all these things that make it hard to love ourselves. And having truly supportive friendships and people in your life make it so much easier to deal with all the painful things in the world that make us doubt and dislike ourselves. Sometimes you need those reminders about your worth from the people around you to help you remember you're a good person, you are kind and loving and caring. We can't do it alone all the time. So this is just something to start thinking about as you navigate friendships and relationships, because it's okay to need help, and that includes getting help working on your relationship with yourself. And it's sad, but there are people who get their self-worth from feeling better than others and tearing other people down. You have to be your own self-advocate when it comes to finding those people who are really there for you and want you to succeed, because this can help so much in the journey to self-love. Besides relationships and self-judgment, the third thing that can really transform your relationship with yourself is something a little unexpected. It's not affirmations or meditation, even though that could help. It's the belief that it is possible to change and the determination to develop more self-love. And this is a big piece of self-improvement that is really overlooked, but it is so important, because if you want things to change, you have to be open to the idea of things changing. That can feel scary because it means letting go of some beliefs you have about yourself and patterns in the way you treat yourself or let other people treat you. This has been the biggest game changer for me in working on myself and feeling loving towards myself, because I used to want things in my life to get better, but I never saw how they could. It just never felt possible. And then I finally realized if I want things to change in my life, I have to change them. I have to believe that there are other possibilities besides what I'm experiencing right now and move forward towards those, even if I don't know how everything will work out. This is so crucial for self-love, because it's easy to think about this in really general ways or just say some affirmations and hope for the best. But if you really want to transform your relationship with yourself and become more self-loving, you can't just wish or hope for it to happen. You need to take steps to removing those barriers to self-love and steps toward genuinely practicing self-love even when it's hard. You can change and you can become a kinder person to yourself, but you are the one who will be able to make that happen. Self-love isn't just a nice idea. It is truly possible, but it can be really tough to feel self-love in the world we live in, and it's going to take work. Work you are completely capable of, and you can and will get help along the way, but you are the only one who is responsible for you at the end of the day. I share this because I think self-love is something we all want to experience more of, and I believe in you and in myself that we can go beyond just wanting to feel it and taking steps toward being kinder and more accepting to ourselves, and I hope you believe in yourself too. I'd love to hear your thoughts on everything I just shared. If you heard something that made you think or was a new idea to you, or if you have anything to add. I'm always learning and growing as a person, and I would love to hear your thoughts on self-love too. Feel free to peek in the description too, because I'm sharing a link to everything you see in this video, from the coloring books to my cute little Kirby plush, as well as some Valentine's Day coloring book recommendations. And happy Valentine's Day, my lovely pals. Let yourself be a little more loving to yourself today and tomorrow, because you deserve to feel good about yourself.